I'm going to be up there.
Where?
Times Square. I'm filming the guys who drop the ball. These are the guys who pull the actual rope that makes the ball drop. They are the New Year's Eve ball droppers.
Can't they do it another day?
New Year's Eve?
Yes.
No. They're very strict about that. They did it once in August. It screwed up everything.
I just wanted to let you know about my study group.
Oh, don't be a fuddy-duddy. I'll be your study buddy.
I'm about to embark on one of the great challenges of my scientific career.
This work right here is going to change history.
I think this is going to be our greatest mission.
I don't have time to study. I'll never get into Stanford.
I got big plans for you tonight. I got maps, I got charts. I'm going to see you through this because my credibility is on the line.
It's at this point that you'll want to start taking notes.
Welcome to the Sitcom Study, the podcast where we contemplate the TV shows we grew up with and search for the truth and wisdom within the tropes and cliches. And Amy, what's the trope we're talking about tonight?
Well, tonight it's all about New Year's Eve, but just like most New Year's Eves, it goes wrong.
New Year's Eve, plans gone awry, yup. I'll say all of these plot synopses involve the phrase, but nothing goes as planned, or something like that. And
because nothing ever does when you try to make a big, nice plan for New Year's Eve.
Yeah, we're going throughout the ages, but I'll ask you, what's your overall take on this? Do you agree with the philosophies of these shows that nothing ever goes right? Are you a big New Year's Eve person in general? What are your thoughts?
So I love a reason to party, but New Year's Eve is one of those holidays where I feel like everything's trying to take advantage of you, and everything is just trying to be against you. I 100% agree that you can never make big plans on New Year's Eve because it's never going to go right, and you're going to end up upset that you were trying to put it all and have this big party for just this one night, when if you just chill and plan for a nice chill night, you're gonna have a great time. And that's the better move after years of trying and failing to have amazing New Year's Eve parties. Yeah. Or New Year's Eve plans.
I kind of like New Year's Eve. I think for one thing, it's the actual meaning of the holiday is celebrating an actual thing that's real. I believe in the year ending and a new year beginning, as opposed to a lot of these holidays going back to some sort of religious or historical origin that is, I
do not believe in Washington and Lincoln's birthdays being celebrated on President's Day.
Whatever, Thanksgiving.
Don't believe it.
There's questionable aspects of all of these holidays, and we like them because of their traditions, and that's fine. But New Year's Eve and New Year's actually is something that I can latch onto. It is, it's like my birthday, but synced up, everyone's synced up together instead of being an individual thing.
I think it's really interesting that all different cultures, religions, walks of life, everybody still has this idea of a new year.
And as for the part about, you're always disappointed, it never lives up to the hype. I feel like that sort of is what you make it. I choose to not feel that pressure, and especially now being the age we are, I've seen it all in terms of very eventful, fun New Year's and New Year's where I did nothing and I lived to tell the tale. It was not, a horrible experience to have a boring New Year's. And, as we'll talk about with some of our episodes, particularly the How I Met Your Mother, the sort of young metropolitan person's New Year's Eve of bouncing from party to party and going around the city. Those are definitely, there's a handful of years, in my 20s or early 30s where I did that.
Yeah.
And, we would do that just in general, but I have at this point, it is truly half a lifetime ago. So the details are very, very hazy, but I remember ringing in the actual New Year at some sort of wild burlesque show in Brooklyn. And, we had been to 3 or 4 places before that. Another time, just outside some, on the porch of some bar. It was just me and a handful of friends. There wasn't anything super special that we accomplished that night other than kind of bopping around the city and everything just being a little more sort of, amped up than usual. And so, yeah, I don't feel the need to have that happen every time, but I do look back warmly on, some of those New Year's experiences.
Yeah, well, and that's such an interesting, thing for you to mention, because I didn't spend my, 20s and 30s in a metropolitan area. I was very suburban in those years and married for part of them, for, most of it. And so it was like, I definitely, we drove everywhere. So there wasn't this idea of party hopping. It was the idea that you had to pick the right thing to do because you were going to be there all night. You were locked in. And a lot of times that meant like having to go, pay $200 a person for some fancy party at some hotel or some resort or, some cool bar that you liked or some restaurant. And or you had a friend that was having a party, but, it was like if the party sucked, if nothing was going on, if no one else decided to pay that $250 per person, then you were there in like this empty, sad ballroom with you and 4 other people, just like, man, this sucks.
Yeah, no, I count myself fortunate that I never really had that experience because, like in a city, the whole city is the party,
right?
And you just go wherever you want.
Because you're not driving, you can move from party to party. If something isn't fitting your vibe, you can go somewhere else. That was definitely not an option for me until I was in my late 30s and I moved to a more metropolitan area. And by that time, I was just like, I'm having a party, everyone's dressing up like Great Gatsby, or, oh, you're having a party? Okay, everyone's just going there.
Yeah, and don't get us wrong, they absolutely have those $200 a head parties in the city. They're for dummies. Here's rich people.
Yeah,
you don't
why
have
would
to
you do that?
go
You
to
don't
them.
need to. And that's the thing. It was always a crapshoot. It was always like, do I spend this money or do I just have something at home? But then, all my cool, fun friends, maybe they decide to have a do one of the $200 parties. And then, oh shit, only the Limo friends show up and now I'm bored.
Yeah. All right. So what did we watch? What were our shows?
We watched Laverne and Shirley, season 3, episode 12, New Year's Eve, 1959. Mad About You, season 4, episode 9, New Year's Eve. This one's going to be New Year's Eve, 1995, going into 1996. Frasier, season 7, episode 12, RDWRER, which we'll explain when we get to the show. It's RDWRER. And How I Met Your Mother, season 1, episode 11, The Limo.
Yeah.
And so that Frasier episode, that's going to be the millennium. That's going to be 99 into 2000. And How I Met Your Mother is going to be 2005 into 2006.
Gotcha. So speaking of the years right off the bat, this Laverne and Shirley episode is titled New Year's Eve, 1959. But I was kind of bummed that the episode isn't really about that per se. Like it's not about the year.
There's no historical thing happening. There's not, they're not, that's, Laverne and Shirley wasn't that kind of a show. This is 1977 looking back at 1959.
Yes, but all the more reason.
Who they were as single women trying to make their way in the world.
Yeah, well, and the truth is, and I'm not complaining about this, but this is going to be a pretty ordinary sitcom plot about, trying to get a date, feeling bad about yourself, etc. So that's our mission. If we're tracking the trope of in all these episodes, people have a plan, right? They have something they're doing.
To get that New Year's Eve kiss.
Yeah. And in this case, these are single ladies, or sort of one of them is, because we established that Shirley has this guy Carmine. That's some sort of a steady guy. I don't know. They're not married or anything.
No, but they've been going steady for a while.
Right. And so Laverne, we begin with them in their, malt shop hangout or whatever. And Laverne is like, who am I going to pick? And she has this whole colorful cast of characters of like, whatever, Stumpy Sal.
Yeah, the cop or the guy who is like a mechanic. And then they find out that their friend, she and her guy have broken up. Is his name Paul?
Yes. I think his name is Peter. She's Beatrice. So it's Pete and B. But this is like the part in Seinfeld when Jerry and Elaine are like ready to jump on the like hot couple that that were together for years. And in this case, there's no other
I was
one.
going to say, to me, this is like the How I Met Your Mother episode where the neighbor of the girl that Ted has had a crush on since college is like on his side, is like his spy.
Well,
and he's like, the window is open. And so he, like, the whole episode is him running across town to try to ask this girl out before the window closes.
Yeah, that is exactly what's happening. We find out that Laverne remembers this guy from their 6th grade picnic when they took a walk in the woods.
Yeah, she took him into the woods,
Yeah.
which was a euphemism for they went to go make out. And she goes, yeah, but I was in 6th grade. I took him into the woods before I even knew what I even knew what to do in the woods.
Yeah.
And she is talking just like that, even though they're from Milwaukee.
Yes.
Just going to reiterate that point that over half of the characters in this show talk like this, like they're from New York City, and they're all from Milwaukee.
Yeah, whatever Fonzie's backstory is
Right,
applies to
they all
them.
just moved out to Milwaukee together from New York about 3 years ago, except she's talking about when she was in the 6th grade with Cheryl there in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I can't explain it, but that is their vibe.
And Carmine, that's Shirley's boyfriend. He's got the same thing going on. He's like, bada bing, baby, what am I going to do with you?
Yeah, so the whole thing hanging over this is that Shirley is planning a New Year's Eve party, right?
That's right.
That's her side of the plan. So
she
Laverne
plans
needs
it
a
every
date.
year, and it's couples only, and it's, what did she say, $5
It's $5 a head, which
a couple.
in the 50s...
No, $5 a couple.
Sorry,
which
$5
was
a couple.
Great
which is,
deal is what they're saying.
Yeah, I question that. I feel like a party at your house for your friends should be
But
free.
it's not at the house. It's at the their like version of Saul's Pizza Place.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Still, I feel like that's, I don't know what the
Arnold's.
exact
To keep with the
equivalent
happy
of.
days.
But yeah, she's going around collecting money and trying to make sure that everybody knows about about her party. And
Right. It's the booze. Like instead of BYOB, she's collecting the $5 from each couple, and she'll make sure there's
yeah,
money.
but I'm just saying in 1955, I feel like $5 a couple
1959.
would get you quite a lot of booze.
Yeah, that's champagne. She's gotten the good stuff.
Yeah, so in true sitcom form, Shirley tells Laverne, leave it all to me, right? I've got a plan.
See if you can get Pete to ask you out and then bring him back to the house. And Shirley's like, I was going to, because she's always making the jokes about how she wants to make out and have sex.
Well, what she says...
And Shirley's like, there will be no smut.
Yeah, Laverne goes, you mean he might have to stay all night? And Shirley goes, my plan does not include smut. So I guess at this point, because we've covered the pilot of Laverne and Shirley.
But there was a pilot throwback in this episode. Did you notice it?
Which was what?
The dress that Laverne wears on New Year's Eve, that really pretty, like, ice teal dress, that was the one that Lenny and Squiggy stole in quotation
for them
marks
to go to
in
the fancy
pilot
dinner.
episode. Yes.
Okay, so was Shirley always the more prim and proper one?
Yeah.
Okay. Just an aside, I could not stop thinking that her, with those big blue eyes, she reminded me so much of Zooey Deschanel from The New Girl, just with the short hair.
Yes.
But it's like, if they're making the
Mousy,
biopic,
quirky,
the Laverne and
100%.
Shirley, behind the scenes biopic, get Zooey Deschanel in there to play, 35-year-old, what's her face?
Yeah.
So we have the date. We don't get to see the date. We see Laverne come home to the apartment with
From
this
the date,
Pete guy.
yeah.
Yes, she is, I guess they went roller skating, but he took off his roller skates and she did not.
No, she couldn't take off her roller skates because her shoes got stolen.
Okay.
That's why he's saying, I'm sorry, your shoes got stolen. So
Gotcha.
she had to roller skate all the way home. And then they were talking about, he was like, man, I really like that you're such a good skater. The way you pushed that girl over the edge was, to get out of your way was amazing. And so she goes, yeah, she's probably the one who stole my shoes. Oh, well, she's not going to get the L's off of them.
Yeah, does not explain why she still keeps the skates on the whole time inside the house.
No,
but
that's
she's
just
pulling
a fun
like
gag.
a Marty McFly, riding on a skateboard on the back of the truck, where
Yes.
she'll just grab this guy's belt buckle and
Yes.
hitch a ride with him as he walks around
And it's
the
great.
kitchen.
As we've talked about before with Laverne and Shirley, they do a really good job with this apartment. They
Yes.
make it really like feel like a loft,
Yeah.
the way it's really open. And this is, when they did the Olympics, they had already moved to LA. So that was a totally different apartment. But this apartment also has this very open, sunken living room where to get to the kitchen and the bedrooms, you have to go up a couple of stairs. Same with the front door. It's up on that like other level. Mary Tyler Moore's set was kind of like this, where the back part of the set was still part of her big apartment, but it was like up a level.
Yes, it's just
so it was
good
like a sunken
staging.
living
It's
room.
like, you
of
can
course.
get more people in there and stuff. Yes.
But it's just to think about having an apartment like that is kind of cool.
Oh,
like your
yeah.
dad has a sunken living room,
Yes,
which I think is
and
really nice.
yes, it's increasingly impossible in these cities. But yeah, let's talk for a second about her squeeze here. This Pete guy, he's like Tony Danza's yuppie cousin.
Yeah,
is what
he
I put
kind
down.
of sucks. Like his whole thing with her is that he's just trying to reminisce about so he's been with this B girl for 10 years.
Yeah.
They've been going steady.
And
so
just like you're
it's
saying
a long time.
about all of these characters, he talks with the Joey Buttafuoco.
Oh my gosh, they
hey,
all
yo,
do.
wow, you were a good skater
I
there,
had
Laverne.
no idea people from the Midwest
Yes.
spoke like that. So, but yeah, so he's, you would think Milwaukee even, they would maybe sound more like Chicago. You know what I mean?
Who knows? But yeah, he has that Tony Danza voice, but
Yes.
he's all well dressed and hair slicked and everything. When did we stop the thing of, like in Happy Days, men producing a comb and combing their hair?
That's
like
just
anytime.
greasers. Greasers do that. And
But
Lenny
this
and
guy
Squiggy
wasn't a greaser.
No, he wasn't. But Lenny
But he
and
did that.
He did that?
Yeah,
I don't
there's
think
a
I
point-
caught that.
They make out. The way this scene sort of plays out
Yeah,
is that
they
Laverne
make
and this
out,
guy
he
make
pulls
out,
out a comb.
and then Shirley interrupts them. And so
Right.
as he's like putting himself back together, he whips out the comb and combs his hair. And I'm
A
just
la
thinking,
Danny
yeah.
Zuko from Grease.
Or Fonzie in the opening theme of Happy Days.
That's really
So I'm
funny.
just
No, I
thinking,
didn't
like,
catch that, but I think to me he's supposed to be kind of icky. Like I didn't like him very much.
I feel like he's one of these sitcom in and out people where we're supposed to understand, why she has a thing for him, but not be too upset when it doesn't work out. I mean, my only other note on this guy was hell of a chin,
Yeah.
huge
Yes.
ass
Yes.
chin. But yeah, like good looking guy. And I guess we like that he's like, this whole Tony Danza, Joey Buttafuoco thing. It's supposed to be telling us he's a down to earth guy. He's not,
I guess. I don't know. I got like his whole thing. He seems like a sad little puppy. Like he definitely is still not over his ex. And, Laverne, bless her, is doing everything she can to make him not think about that and think about other things. And so they're reminiscing about being in middle school together and how they always both had little crushes on each other. And, and Laverne is getting more and more like puppy eye, more and more puppy love going on. Like she's just got these big puppy dog eyes and she's so happy that like everything she says, he's reciprocating and they both, they're confessing to this long ago crush and everything. And so she is like, oh, Laverne, like we've never seen her, right? She's lost all of her edge. She's a total, putty in this guy's hands. And then Shirley keeps interrupting in various levels of hilarity to announce her party, because that was the whole plan, was that she would come and announce her party. And then the guy, Pete, would realize, oh, hey, Laverne, we should go to that.
Right,
and
if it
ask
has
Laverne.
to be couples, yes. And of course, the joke is that Shirley's whole presence there is completely unnecessary. Like,
Right.
they're doing fine. Laverne and this guy are
Yes.
hitting it off. They're making it out. And Shirley is just constantly inserting herself between the two of them, going, best party in town this Friday night, New Year's Eve.
Right.
Come on.
But she also is smart. She's doing her friend Laverne a favor, right? Because if Laverne and this guy Pete hook up, like get farther than a little like necking on the couch, he isn't going to ask her to New Year's Eve because it's 1959. So Shirley's actually like doing her friend
She's
a solid.
giving her, like somewhere to go with it.
Yeah, exactly. So eventually he's like, okay, I can't take it anymore. I got to get out of here. Oh, I got to get up early anyway and open up the shop or whatever. So I'm going to go. But hey, Cheryl's party, that sounds like fun. Do you want to go? And then that's the end of that beat, right? Laverne is like, we're going to the party together. And Cheryl blows the horn from the back room and go to commercial.
Yeah, and this party, when we finally see it, the opening sort of wide establishing shot reminded me of the Charlie Brown Christmas, the part everybody loves.
Yeah,
where they're all,
they're
doing
all
the
just dancing.
Because, like, every person seemed to have this like simple 2-step dance that
they were just going to repeating
over and over again. Yeah, but we get this little party.
Easy.
Yeah, it is sort of like what you're describing, you know, not quite that extreme, but it's like a relatively sparsely attended, you know, little like,
yeah,
you know,
it looks like, so
area.
this is Laverne's dad's pizza place. So, you know, he's there and Laverne's mom, and they're, you know, everybody's doing the twist, and he's like, oh, I can't do the twist. And Laverne's mom keeps trying to get him to shake his hips and move his knees. And so there's, you know, that's little, I could just imagine Jerry Stiller playing that part now,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah. You're talking about Frank, the guy who plays the classical waltz on the jukebox to
Yes.
get his wife
He's
to
like,
dance.
don't call me old fashioned. I love to boogie. And he plays the waltz and then starts to dance.
Yeah. So we get a little bit of this party, this New Year's Eve party, and then Pete and Laverne want to kiss, but they feel like it will be improper unless there's mistletoe.
Right. They
on
can't
top of
kiss
them.
in public because they're not going steady, and it's 1959.
No, right. He just broke up with Beatrice.
Right.
So
Laverne's
Laverne's like, I'll find some.
That's
she gets
right.
oregano. She's like, this will work just as well. And then in walks Beatrice, you know, scorned lover, sees what's going on.
Plays their song,
yes, it's been
chances are, on the
established.
jukebox.
Yep, they established earlier that was their big song. And this is just, in general, the jukebox, I love how much it figures into these stories.
Yeah.
Saved by the Bell, same thing, Happy Days, always jukebox stuff. And that's enough that, like, they fall back in love, basically, Peter and Beatrice, the original couple.
Yes.
You know?
And it leaves Peter, like, when the song comes on, he turns around to see who played it on the jukebox and sees B standing there, and he leaves Laverne standing on a rickety chair in the middle of the party, hanging oregano so that they could kiss, and he walks away and he starts to dance with them. And, you know, she gets down, she takes the oregano down, she jumps down off the chair, and she runs out of the party.
Yes, heartbroken.
Totally heartbroken. Cheryl sees her and grabs their coats and goes after her.
Yes. Now, we should mention the whole time there's been a little B story where Lenny and Squiggy are like, they're up to something. This is just like something you would see in like the side story on Full House. You know, they're doing some sort of contraption. They want to do
cold cream and a dry rope. And they come and ask for at some point.
Yes, and
but
they give them
specifically
that.
a dry rope. Which I was like, gross. I don't understand. They're going to use the cold cream on the rope. What's happening? And then later in the second beat, we see them with a ladder, and they're like, "Come on out to the front of the building."
Yes, they want everyone to gather out front in the building
for the countdown.
Yes. Now, a couple things. Lenny and Squiggy, L and S, like Laverne and Shirley.
Oh, is that
cute?
on
purpose?
Oh, you think?
That occurred to me. It's just like, I wonder if that means anything. The other thing is, just like we got a couple weeks ago, the big lore drop in Charles in Charge about Buddy being Buddenst Lembeck.
Yes.
Maybe everybody knew this, but that Squiggy is actually Mr. Andrew Squigman. I thought was very funny.
That is funny.
Yes, when he is presented by Lenny, that's what he says. You know, which
Mr.
makes
Andrew Squigman.
Yeah, which makes them the rare duo like Cheech and Chong, where it's the one person has the first name and one person has
the last name. Interesting.
But anyway, so that's off to the side. They're getting ready to do their funny New Year's thing. But meanwhile, the rest of the episode is going to basically play out like your standard sitcom stuff. Laverne feels bad. She's crying on Shirley's shoulder, and Shirley's just trying to tell her, you know, you're not ugly, you're pretty, you know, and it's just that they're in love.
Right.
And
that their end game, exactly. Their end game, even Liz Taylor couldn't have stopped it.
Yes.
And
Fun
Laverne's
time
like,
capsule moment.
Liz Taylor could have 100% stopped it. And
Yeah.
so she's so sad. But yeah, she basically is just, you know, look, that's always the thing, right? Laverne is this sort of tomboyish, kind of loud, brash, you know, likes to make out, likes to be with the boys kind of girl, and she never seems to get the guy. Like, that is well established in this the whole, series.
Yeah, because that's always going to be their dynamic with these two, because the Shirley one has the big, doe eyes, and she just looks like more of that kind of, lady. And so, yes, she's being the friend and consoling her. And the Elizabeth Taylor thing I thought was very funny, just like Side of the Times. That's your, Helen of Troy of like 1959.
Legitimately.
Yeah. And then they get called out, it just ends like your standard, feel-good sitcom. But then they get called out front, and everybody gets to sing Auld Lang Syne. We should track that trope.
Yep.
As Mr. Andrew Squigman is rappelling down the side of the building.
Right. He is the ball that's being dropped.
The ball. And this is where, similar to our
But
Ghosts
he's dressed
episode,
as the New Year's baby.
Yes.
And Lenny is dressed as a Father Time.
Father Time. Yep. And so they're both wearing these very sort of makeshift, like silly outfits. But it's funny, they, just like the Olympics episode we talked about, they're all doing this stuff for real. And so they almost sacrifice like the slapstick of it, because as he's coming down, there's not like a big fall or crash or like anything crazy.
No, he's like going really
just
slowly because he's scared.
Yeah, and
then
because he's really doing it. It's the real actor who really is. I think this is an inside set, this one. And it's like he really is climbing down from this like second or third story thing. And so they can only do so much. So it's like, if you're there in the studio audience, you get the fun of seeing this guy like really
dangling,
doing it.
Right.
Yeah, but you don't get the funny joke of like in Married with Children where they fling the dummy of Al Bundy across the room or something like that. Like it's actually a kind of subtle moment as he descends as the New Year's ball.
Oh, and they take two different shots of it, him getting lower each time, trying to like get the pulley to work.
Yeah.
He's like jumping on the rope, trying to get it to lower him. And so he's coming down in these, chunks. But it was very funny. He was terrified when he finally got to the bottom. He's like wiping off sweat. Everybody's singing Auld Lang Syne, and he's like, snuggled up in the arms of some girl, just like fanning himself because he was so scared.
Yeah, and that's it. Again, Auld Lang Syne, we should track that because this trope carries over from our Christmas episodes where it's like, all the characters in the show are going to sing this song, and it's going to sort of transform into like, we're just serenading you, the audience.
Yes, we're celebrating
from us at Laverne and Shirley. We wish
all of you
a New Year's
Happy New Year's.
Yeah, and beyond that, honestly, this not the best at really tapping into the New Year's, aspect of the story. Like, it's definitely there in the sense that the one of them wants to have a party, the other one wants to have like the best date she's ever going to have. But it's still, I feel like it doesn't necessarily play into it as much as the later ones are going to.
Right. And we have to say it does end on a happy note, though, because Laverne still does get a New Year's kiss. Officer Norman, who is one of like her regular guys that she's going with, he had to work, but he got assigned to that block. So right at the last minute, he drives up and everyone's like, get in here. And so Laverne gets to kiss Officer Norman on New Year.
Right on. All right, let's continue with Mad About You.
Mad About You, Season 4, Episode 9, New Year's Eve.
Yeah, Mad About You is an interesting one. We've talked about it once or twice.
Yeah.
It's contemporaneous with Seinfeld, Friends, and all of those.
Yes.
It's got like a pretty good pedigree. I really like Paul Reiser and Helen Hunt as like personalities.
Yeah.
And so I'm always sort of like really ready for Mad About You. And then when we get to it, I always find it's like, it's going for that thing we've talked about before, that sort of prestige sitcom thing where it doesn't want to be like Alf and Small Wonder.
No, it is definitely not trying to be wacky at all. It's supposed to be slice of life marriage.
Even relative to Seinfeld and Friends, very sort of down the middle, no soup Nazi stuff, no, peeing on your friend to get the jellyfish sting. Like,
no, but every now and then.
Right.
Though.
I don't want to but I guess that's what I'm sort of getting at, is that it ends up being neither fish nor fowl, because it's not like it's a serious drama or anything.
No,
it still is
not.
a comedy, but it's subtle. Like, it's not that.
It is legitimately just life. Right? It's not supposed to be, like you're saying, it's not supposed to have any of this wacky stuff. Now, all of that is to say there are some episodes where they do some wacky stuff.
Definitely.
And they did get a little bit wacky with the ball drop sequence in this one.
Oh, sure. And they have funny characters, but I guess just as I'm talking through this, what I'm thinking is, like, if this show had come out 10 years later and we had more of a template for maybe the single camera, more, something that was produced like New Girl or something, where it can be a little bit more, you could just get into it. Because the problem is, this is still a multi-camera sitcom with the audience laughing and the 22-minute episodes and this and that. And so I guess that's what I mean by neither fish nor fowl, is I'm always just kind of like, like that actually wasn't that much of anything.
Right. No. Well, so what they do with it is kind of like what Will and Grace do with it, right? That Will and Grace themselves every now and then will get into a funny little ridiculous scrape, but most of the time it's Karen and Jack getting into the ridiculousness, right? And so that's what goes on with Bad About You. You've got Helen Hunt plays Jamie. Jamie is a public relations executive. She owns her own PR company, and her partner in the business is Fran or Fern, and I think it's Fran, and her husband is played by Richard Kind, and he's a doctor. And so normally you've got the crazy antics of wonderful character actor Richard Kind going on. Right?
Very high point for Jewish comedians and character actors at this time. Just running around everywhere.
Everywhere. So you've got Richard Kind and so where we are in this series at this point, I think what we say we're in season 4. So Fran and Richard Kind's character his name's Mark. They have decided to sort of take a break in their marriage and date. And Fran in particular is dating Paul's best friend, Ira, who is a musician. So Paul, played by Paul Reiser, is a documentarian, and his best friend is Ira. But he's a, character actor as well. And so he's also dating Fran. So the setup for this episode is that Fran and Jamie have to attend the mayor's New Year's Eve ball at Gracie Mansion because they have been working on his campaign for the city. They've been working for him. And Paul is in the midst of shooting a documentary about the people who lower the New Year's Eve ball for the ball drop. Because until, I think it was this was the last year, this was 95 going into 96, the lights became computerized in 1995 going into 96. So for this New Year's Eve ball drop in this episode, the lights were pre-programmed and run by a computer, by a light board, but the ball drop itself was still done manually by guys holding ropes.
So essentially this episode was a documentary showing us how it happened.
Right. And then that was the last year of it, though. In 1996, going into 1997, they pre-programmed the ball to drop with a computer as well, and it has been done that way ever since.
Gotcha. You can see the movie New Year's Eve for some more storylines based on the logistics of the Times Square ball dropping. But if you're listening to that and found it a little bit confusing, and we're not getting into even the other friend of Jamie's who's bringing her sister, who's bringing her friend from out of town to Times Square to show him a good time.
Not from out of town. He's a local guy too. You know him from
Freaky Friday.
And from Sex and the City.
Okay. Yeah. I know him from Freaky Friday as Jamie Lee Curtis's patient at the beginning who goes, "Oh, so you're lying. Yes. You're a liar." sure. It's very funny.
Yeah, another well-known character actor. Yeah, he's, I think, Miranda's on and off again or he's like a friend.
Whatever.
Or
He's a nervous guy, and Jamie's sister thinks it'll be a good idea to take him into Times Square,
right? Because
the worst
he's had a hard
place
year
you could ever go. Yeah, he's had a hard year. I'm going to cheer him up by taking him to the worst place in the world, the loudest, most crowded, chaotic place where, as he later points out, you can't get out even if you wanted to.
Right, we're trapped in here now.
Terrible idea.
He has a panic attack. He's like, I'm having an anxiety attack.
But so, yeah, this Dickensian set of characters, I'm sure, all makes perfect sense. You know, the core cast of this show with just two people.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten to Hank Azaria yet. Who's
right,
their crazy
the Chicago
dog
guy.
Walker.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, of course, the show is just Paul and Jamie, so they have these other characters, friends, brothers and sisters, like, that all makes sense. But for us dropping in, this was really a case of like, who the hell are these people? What's going on?
And
Why
in a
do I care?
normal episode, you'll have maybe 2, maybe 3 of them.
Right.
But because this was this holiday episode, I think they just brought out all the stops. Everybody was in it. Hank Azaria was billed as a special guest star, Hank Azaria.
Yeah, well, at this point, Hank Azaria is bouncing all over TV. I mean, in the 90s, he's everywhere. And in this, he's doing...
95, when was that quiz show movie?
94.
Yeah. So he would have already been doing that kind of stuff too.
Oh yeah, he's in movie. Yeah, excellent. His starring role in Cradle of Rock. I think they were
married. I think he and Helen Hunt were married at this time.
Oh yeah, I don't think I knew that.
I don't know. I mean, they definitely. I don't know if they met on this show, but they were definitely married when the show was going on. And then they got divorced, and then the dog walker got fired.
Yeah, but. The funny thing with him is he's doing this crazy Chicago accent. And I'm just like, oh, that's one of his random Simpsons voices that he brings out. Like, I don't even think he has a specific
Chicago
character.
Accent that he should have taught the Marshall family for Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah, but yeah, he's when he's on The Simpsons and he's going, "Hey, fatty, I got a movie for you, A Fridge Too Far." You know, he's just some guy yelling in the crowd. He puts on this Chicago accent.
Well, there you go. It's his dog walker from Mad About You accent.
But so what I'm trying to say is it's all like a little sort of complicated. So let's try to just kind of simplify it.
Yeah, just to Jamie and Paul, right? The issue with them is that they're going to have to spend New Year's Eve apart.
Yes.
Because he's working, because they're both working, basically.
Yeah.
And so Jamie isn't really happy about that. She's like, you know, can't you get this footage or send somebody else to get this footage on another day? And he's just like, no, I can't get footage of them operating the ball drop on New Year's Eve on another day. Like, we have to spend New Year's Eve apart, and I'm sorry, that sucks. And she's like, you know, I can't not go to this party at the mansion because, you know, this is a really big client for me, and it can be, you know, it will set us up forever. Because all that is to say, that's something that was really exciting about this show when it came out, is that she is the breadwinner. Yeah. He's the artist, and she's the one with the stable career. Mm-hmm. And so that in 1995, I mean, I just want you to think about what Ross and Rachel nonsense was going on. He was trying to like actively destroy her having a career, and that was supposed to be the pinnacle of 90s love. Whereas we have this couple who we've often joked about, you know, Jamie hates Paul because she always is like, watching Mad About You is basically just watching her like complain about her husband for half an hour. That's the joke. This episode didn't have that. Like, she was definitely shaming him at the beginning for carrying a child's wallet, but you know, they got past that.
Yeah, she is. Helen Hunt is just such perfect casting for this, because she just has a way of being like she just looks very approachable despite being very attractive. And so like she just doesn't look like a movie star. She doesn't look like Jennifer Aniston. Like you can buy her as this like down to earth person, her voice and everything.
Yeah, totally. I think this was before Twister even. This was before As Good as It Gets and all of her Oscar turns. Twister doesn't come out until like 96, I think. So she's not even done that yet. Fun fact though, Alan Ruck, guest star in this episode,
episode will start with her in Twister.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, overall, I feel
and then Richard Kind and Alan Ruck both end up in Spin City.
Yes.
Which is based in the New York mayor's office, which is a plot point in this, that they're all at this party. Alan Ruck in this episode, he plays like one of the mayor's, assistants, associates, whatever. And he is, we think he's going to make the moves on Jamie because she's at the party by herself.
He's saying stuff like, oh, I think I finally worked up the courage to try to say to you what I've been meaning to say.
Let's have a dance. And so he's dancing with her and he's like, oh yeah, I've had, maybe it's the champagne talking. And we're like, oh no. And Jamie's like, oh no, and tries to get away from him. And he's like, I'm going to run for mayor and I want you to run my campaign. And this is like, oh, this is the most amazing thing. She's like, yes, thank you. But it doesn't keep her from running out of the party.
Now, yes, the Alan Ruck's career is hilarious. You mentioned that it reminded you of the Spin City thing because what is his role in that?
Both he and Richard Kind are in Spin City. They are, they're part of the mayor's staff.
Okay. To hear him in this going, I've decided to run for mayor when he's like 40. Right. And then his character in Succession when he's like in his 50s is, I want to run for president. Like that's his whole thing. He's the rich guy that decides to run for president despite having no qualifications. And yeah, there's something about his vibe that makes people go like, he's going to be the schmo that wants to get into politics.
Yeah, totally. He's got that weasel face for sure.
Yeah. So like you said, Jamie has decided that she's going to try to meet up with Paul. Paul, meanwhile, has met these two surly guys that are up on the roof operating the ball drop pulley system. Two more ubiquitous character actors. Yes. We've definitely, I think both of them have been on Friends in different capacities. They're these two older, bigger guys.
Yes, absolutely. I was going to say I thought one of them was the Super, but that's not true.
No, he's the guy with the mustache.
The guy with the mustache. But yeah, I mean, this cast is just stacked, not to mention they end up getting Dick Clark to do a cameo because they're talking over and over about Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve. Oh, and we didn't even mention, speaking of, random Dick Clark cameos, we didn't even mention that at the very beginning when they're returning the wallet, the store clerk that's helping them is Kathy Griffin.
Kathy Griffin, again, surliness abounds. I wrote the word surly like 4 or 5 times in my notes here because she's the surly watch salesman or jewelry salesperson.
She's just at the counter at this department store where she's supposed to be taking care of people looking at wallets.
That's making me realize that I guess that is a big part of the sort of game of this show is like, Paul is like the main characters are sort of like nice and happy, and everyone that they deal with are these like angry, grumpy people in the big city.
Exactly.
So yeah, the two guys, they don't want to talk to him. They're just like these two surly guys. And then eventually it comes time to lower the ball. And the joke is that Paul is like directing them like, oh, I need a good shot of you.
Get over here.
Move over to the left. And the guys are obviously like crisscrossing each other in a way that is going to tangle up
their
the
lines.
ball.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then what follows is pure like, this is like something from the Twilight Zone.
Ridiculousness.
Yeah. Like this
They have all these great shots of the crowd, of New Year's Eve crowd in Times Square.
Yes.
That they very clearly were using stock footage
stock
from
shots.
Previous years and stuff. But then they get some really good close-ups, and it's, they have hired a pretty hefty cast of extras to stand there and wear the Planet Fitness hats and count down, but they don't have the glasses, that have the year numbers on them. So they're all standing there, and that's when we get the scenes with the sister Anne, or I guess the sister's named Lisa. She's played by an actress named Anne. So the sister named Lisa, and then and what's his face?
Her friend, the character
Randall,
actor,
but he's
in
played
that
by
sea of
Willie
people.
Garson. Yeah.
Okay, yes. Total nightmare. It truly, like, that is for a certain kind of person that wants that experience. I think most people, I would never recommend going anywhere near Times Square on New Year's Eve.
And it is very different now than it used to be. But so the crowd crowd is there, and they're all now counting down, and the lines, as we've described, are crossed because of what Paul has directed the guys lowering the ball to do.
Yeah, it's like if you were lowering a flag, like pulling the strings, but you ran around the flagpole like
a
4 times.
Yeah, and got them all crisscrossed. So the guys are like, wait, the pulley line. It's going to get stuck. The ball is going to get stuck.
These guys that would not give Paul the time of day, like wouldn't even talk to him, are now just blindly obeying him.
Right, exactly.
And like, even though they know that like literally time itself apparently depends on this ball dropping.
So they're counting down, and they get to 3, and the whole crowd just keeps going 3.
Yes,
3,
the ball
3,
gets stuck.
3.
And mad about you, we just got done saying how it was totally down to earth and realistic, posits a world in which time will stand still until the New York Times Square ball drops.
They're like, what happened?
Yeah.
Has time stood still?
And finally,
and then they cut to Dick Clark, who this year has taken the year off because of whatever reason.
They said he was ailing.
He's not been well. So he is in his rocking chair with a blanket over him, reading the newspaper, watching Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve from home, yelling to his wife in the other room, "Take New Year's Eve off, you said. I'm going to work next year. They can't do anything when I'm not around. Look at this. The ball is stuck. Time as we know it has ceased to exist."
Richard Kind calls it out because he's delivering a baby in a hospital. He's had a whole little subplot about trying to pressure the mom to wait until and so he's watching TV and going like, "Are you kidding me? Are you really saying that the ball has to drop in order for time to continue?"
He like yells over his shoulder, "Can I get a real time in here? Can somebody give me some clarity?"
So very funny, and they eventually figure it out, right? There's no special thing. They eventually untangle it.
Right, they eventually untangle, the ball drops. All of that like minute of 3, right, is what enables Jamie to be able to actually make it there for New Year's and give him a real kiss.
Right. So we get the real, we get the New Year's kiss.
Also, she says 20 minutes, that's all I need to get from uptown 96th Street-ish is where Gracie Mansion is on the Upper East Side, all the way down to Midtown.
Times Square. I mean, honestly,
at like 40th, the 40th, I
like
think?
on a bicycle or something, you could do it. Like the subways and stuff would probably be jammed.
Maybe they didn't close the subways in 95, but they do now.
But so just random note, they had a huge Rush Limbaugh billboard.
Yes. I was
another sign of the times.
I was loving looking at all the shots they had of Times Square because there were several advertisements that I hadn't seen, in 30 years.
Yeah.
And I was really kind of taken aback by a lot of the things that we saw in Times Square.
Yeah, but the truth is that like a fair amount of this episode was devoted to relationship stuff of the friend and the woman,
the little like love triangle that they have going on. Fran and Richard Kind, who is her husband, but they are just dating each other now, not married anymore. And her sort of blossoming relationship with Ira, who's Paul's friend. Ira, we should mention, is like a Jay from Herman's Head. He is like the horny friend who is, or like the George Costanza, always got a scheme. Like he's, he's a musician. And so he has begged off going to this party with Fran because he was supposed to go with her to the Gracie Mansion party. He's begged off going because he has this gig out in New Jersey that he wants to go to. And so he goes to this gig and then meets a woman and is like trying to impress her, even though he's supposed to be with Fran. So it's just kind of showing us that like she still really is in love with her husband.
Yeah, well, and she encourages him too. We should say like he doesn't start that. She says like, you don't have to go with me because she's already talked to the other. Like, you could tell that whatever's going on there, she's on track to get back together with her original person. But I bring that up just to say like that stuff is not really very New Year's Eve-y. No. So the truth is, this is fun because of the, running around the city trying to get from point A to point B, even though we don't really get that much of that.
Yeah, we'll get more of it, though, in How I Met Your Mother.
Yes, and the fact that so much of it is wrapped up in the Times Square balls dropping, does make it, like, that obviously really does secure it in New Year's Eve. And frankly, that makes it fun. Like, that'll be the part of this that I remember, is the ball getting stuck. And
right. Well, the whole idea, right, is that Jamie's against the clock trying to get to him by New Year's Eve, but then time stands still so they can be together.
But it's not, I guess what it's not continuing, despite the plot synopsis promising that the plans would go awry, it's not really one of these things of
all of New Year's goes awry, right? There's an extra minute in 1995.
True. But it's like nobody's disappointed. Nobody's like, this is going to be the best New Year's ever. And then it turns out to be a flop, which tends to be.
They actually end up, they sort of start out disappointed.
Yeah.
And then end up happy. And I think the one who was kind of feeling like it was going to be the best New Year's Eve ever was Fran. And then she sort of changed her mind, ended up in the hospital with Richard Kind anyway, being just wanting to go there and see him for New Year's Eve instead of, we follow Jamie as Jamie runs off to go find her husband. But what, the other, like you were saying, B plot is that Fran actually also leaves too and runs to go be with her husband for New Year's Eve.
So there's a lot of relationship stuff, and the Times Square stuff at the end is very fun. But at the end of the day, like I said at the beginning, it is just kind of like, yeah, that was nice. Like, that was a nice little, like it doesn't do anything that like crazy with it. And again,
but I enjoyed that show. I think having Kathy Griffin as the wacky character in the first scene.
Between her and Hank Azaria and
then
others.
Richard Kind, and it really just works. Like,
there's a lot going on.
Too. His C story is that he ends up at this gig and he meets this really hot woman, and she's like, "Oh, one time I saw Kenny G hold a note for 2 minutes," and he's like, "I can do that," because he's a saxophone player too. But then he decides to do the note hold right as the ball freezes, so he has to hold it for an extra minute on top of the 2 minutes, and so he ends up passing out, and then he wakes up and he's in her lap, and she's like, "That was amazing."
Yeah, that's all very funny. But all right, let's see how this all continues with Frasier.
Season 7, episode 12, RDWRER.
Yeah, so I think this lineup kind of picked up for me in the second half. These later two were more fun, I think. They both have this sort of like automotive element.
Yeah.
And just kind of like they're both a change of pace for their respective shows. And we also have some nice overlap, as we'll see, sort of like toasting the new year on some roadside makeshift situation.
Right.
But Frasier, this is 1999 going into 2000, like you said. Was this a big deal for you, the millennium?
Gosh, I was in college, so I'm trying to remember. I mean, I'm sure there was a party. That's just kind of like what we did, when we were 19, 20.
Well,
so, yeah.
I'm a little, I feel like most people know I'm not somebody who buys into conspiracy theories or, anything. Like, I'm a pretty mainstream sort of non-alarmist person, but I was a little concerned about something that this episode just blithely ignores.
You were worried about Y2K?
Y2K. Yeah. Because if something was going to happen, it would be in the city. And that was the only reason why I was scared.
You were thinking like blackouts because of computer bugs or something? Is that what it was?
I was thinking like some unknown, like, remember, this is before 9/11. So the notion of a terrorist attack, while certainly it existed, was not acutely in my mind in the same way. I heard someone say something like the mayor of New York City ordered 11,000 body bags or something like that.
What?
Like, they're just like the idea that something was going to go horribly wrong. And so, I don't think this was the reason we did this per se, but we went up and we spent it, my girlfriend and I, at my college at Binghamton, well, even though school was closed, because I was just like, that's nice and far away from any like places.
You really were nervous. That's really funny. Yeah. Okay. So, my dad he was a computer programmer. He worked in tech. And the big thing about Y2K for all you youngins out there was that none of the computers understood a date that was 00.
Right.
They had not been programmed with the idea that we would ever get out of the 1900s. And so they all had just these like 2-digit end dates. Right.
So everything was going to switch back to 1900 and the computers were all going to freak out.
Exactly. They were going to be very confused. But computer programmers saw this coming a mile away, and years prior to the turning of 2000, all of our date stuff that it used to be like MMDDYY, when you typed in a date, it changed to MMDDYYYY.
Or they code some way to do it. That's what the guy's job is in Office Space.
Right.
Is to prepare for the Y2K switch. Yeah. So I was not worried about any specific scenario. I just sort of had it in my
DNA. Like, I have to get away from major cities and go to an abandoned school campus in the Great White North because you basically went to school in Canada.
Yeah, that was my fun road trip.
Wow.
This episode, like I said, has nothing to do with that. But it is going to be a road trip episode. So initially, Frasier and Niles, they're excited because they're going to what?
They had plans to go to Chez Henri, and Chez Henri is known for his, some baked Alaska or some sort of flaming dessert. And while he was, it was a creme brulee. And so while he was torching the creme brulee, he accidentally caught fire to the Christmas decorations and his whole restaurant burned down.
Yes.
And so they were like, oh no, it's too late to get another reservation at another place. Everything's booked up. Wait, our wine club that's in Sun Valley, Idaho is having a party. Let's see if we're still invited to that.
Yeah. Frasier says he doesn't want to stay home on the most significant New Year's Eve of their lives. Yes. Right. So
it definitely did feel like that it was this huge deal that we were changing the 1,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Honestly, just insofar as any New Year's is a little arbitrary, and it's okay, everybody, here comes 1988. Of course, and just the fact that the year 2000
and just the fact the last time this
thing.
Happened, it was the Dark Ages.
Yes, exactly. And, for those of us that, we're old enough to have watched Conan, Back to the Future Part 2, they were just all, the Stanley Kubrick movie, being in the 2000s felt like the future.
Oh,
for sure.
Totally.
But anyway, So they want to go to the wine club party, but the only way that they have to get there is their dad's Winnebago.
Right.
He just got his new license plate in the mail, which is the RDWRER, which he thinks, will be easily understood by anybody to mean Road Warrior.
Right. But really, everybody makes fun jokes about how it's like,
yeah, and also how he is a 70-year-old guy with a cane and isn't really much of a warrior.
Right, exactly. So they try to get plane tickets to Sun Valley. Everything's sold out. They can't get last minute plane tickets. So they end up in the bane of their existence, the RV, which makes them feel, they're very high society, and this is very low society.
Well, he goes, when Niles asks Frasier, how are we going to explain this to our wine club friends? And he goes, chalk it up to whimsy, Niles.
That's right.
I thought that was funny.
We're being whimsical. And then Frasier has this whole thing about how along the road trip, it's 650 miles. He wants to meet, commune with the common man. And so they stop at this diner, and Niles has been trying to take a nap the whole road trip so far, but he can't take a nap because his dad comes back and watches TV.
Well, he specifically watches Austin Powers.
Right.
I liked this. I feel like this plays better now in 2025 than it did in 1997 or whatever.
1999 having it be this
Frasier points
joke
out already, Dad, the Austin Powers craze is long over, but now it's like really long over. So to have John Mahoney going like, oh, that's going to be shagadelic, like all of that is really
good. John Mahoney doing Austin Powers. That was great, Jay. Nice one.
But so he's like, he comes out of the back and he's like, oh yeah, this Austin Powers thing is amazing. And so Niles, that's his only chance to sleep is when they pull over to the diner.
Right. So he says he begs off having food at the Little Red Cabin, which is their sort of, Waffle House, Denny's, whatever thing that they grew up going to on road
their
trips.
dad knows this because he actually is a common man. He is in touch with the working people. And so he knows that this Red Roof Cabin or whatever, like that's the place to go. They have, what is it he wants? The slapjacks, or there's like a certain
they were talking
thing,
about when they were
slagger
kids.
jam, or
something.
a log slammer or something.
Something. It was, they were talking about how it was just like something wrapped in bacon, wrapped in fat or something like that. And how the kids used to love it when they were kids. You always used to scream, oh, Little Red Cabin, pull over, pull over. And Niles and Frasier are like, Dad, we screamed that after we'd been to the Little Red Cabin because they were sick. But so anyway, they do pull over. They go into the Little Red Cabin. Niles begs off, goes back into the RV to go to sleep. And we see through the picture window that's on the other side of the booth what Frasier and his father don't see, which is that Niles has walked into the wrong Winnebago.
Yes, this is very just, classic farcical stuff where you got the two of them in profile sitting, talking to each other in the diner. And then in the background, you see Niles all woozy, just stumbling into the RV. And then, we're going to get a fun little adventure thing where Niles goes to sleep in the back of the RV belonging to this old couple who are smokers. We see immediately they're both smoking cigarettes inside the RV, and they're gun enthusiasts.
Mom and Pa.
They call each other Ma and Pa. They're gun enthusiasts, and they're talking about like, oh, good thing we brought our ammunition and stuff. Well, it's just enough to convince Niles that like he can't simply present himself.
Right. Well, so he thinks, so what he overhears is them discussing that they're criminals because they've stolen something. So he is mistaken and thinks that they're talking about they have stolen this RV.
I did not understand this. Okay. Yes, I did not get this plot point. The old couple, the woman feels guilty because she took something by accident.
She took a lighter from the woman at the Little Red Cabin.
And so that's going to ultimately be her reason to go back to the diner. I did not realize that overhearing them talk about, stealing would give Niles the impression that I just thought he was confused and he was just so dumb that he didn't look around and notice like any differences in these people's in the inside of their RV.
No, he overhears them discussing how I'm a criminal now and nobody's gonna, and then they start talking about their guns. So he hears them discussing about stealing something and being such, stealthy criminals. Then they're discussing their guns. And so he calls Frasier from the back, which he has done earlier in the episode. He's called Frasier
this is
from
a running
the bedroom.
gag. Early cell phone days where it's still kind of funny just that somebody would be calling someone on a cell phone.
Right, from the back of the RV. And so Frasier thinks he's still sleeping in the back, so he is not listening to him when he's, Niles is like whispering into the phone.
Again, classic Farsi setup where Frasier and his dad are back on the road. They haven't checked, so they think Niles is in their back seat.
Right.
And when Niles calls and Frasier is like, speak up, Niles. And he goes, I can't. I'm being stolen.
Right. And he's just like, what are you talking about? Stop being ridiculous. Stop playing these games. I'm driving. Hangs up his cell phone. And then Niles is like, well, he peeks out again, sees the old couple. He's like, I've got to report this stolen. And so he calls the cops, reports the Road Warrior RV stolen, which of course he is not in. So now he set up Frasier and his dad to get pulled over.
Yes, they're going to be swarmed by police. Meanwhile, the older couple goes to a different diner.
They go to a different Little Red Cabin.
They swap seats while driving. I noticed that seemed wild to me. Like, I don't know how you do that. Like, they changed places. I forget the reason, but they're just like, yeah, like you take over, mother, or something, and they switch seats. But Niles calls Frasier and says, I'm calling you from behind the wheel of the Road Warrior. And
right.
Frasier says, you can't be. We're on the Road Warrior. And it's only then that Niles notices the pictures on the dash and all that
right.
stuff.
Well, so what happens is the Ma and Pa, they switch seats, and then Ma immediately says, I want to get some food, because the man is saying he's going to take a nap.
Yeah.
So he's going to go discover Niles. Niles is freaking out, trying to find a place to hide. And Ma puts her, foot down and is like, Father. And so they go to this other Little Red diner. Niles gets out and is like, I've escaped the kidnappers. All is fine. And then he's like, oh, wait, I'm going to take it. And so then he does what you said. He calls Frasier and is like, I'm behind the Road Warrior. I'm behind the wheel of the Road Warrior.
Not realizing he has stolen their car.
Stolen a vehicle. This is before Frasier and his dad get caught. So they tell him, take that back, turn around. Oh my goodness. And so he does. And then he's kind of skulking around before Ma and Pa even notice.
Yeah, he returns it back to the parking lot just where he left it. That's the same time as Frasier and his dad are getting, pulled over by the police.
Right. And then they sort everything out with the police because, they have all the paperwork and Frasier's dad is a former cop and everything. Yeah. And so then they reconnect. They're on the phone with Niles and they're not going to make it to the wine place by New Year's. So they're like, well, let's just try to meet back up midway, see if you can get a ride halfway. And so that's when Ma and Pa decide to turn around and go back to the other one.
Niles hears them going like, all right, you convinced me. We'll go back to that diner in Bakersfield and give the lady her thing. And so, he, I guess, sneaks back
sneaks back into the RV, rides with them all the way to the other Little Red Cabin and waits there.
Yeah, Frasier and John Mahoney have that funny conversation where, John Mahoney is like, well, we can't go back. The next exit is 40 miles or whatever. And Frasier says, you can't do a Yui on the interstate. And Frasier goes, that's 20th century talk, Dad. And he does the interstate and then they get pulled or does the Yui.
Well, after John Mahoney has insulted the cop, calling him a goober and saying how he's done all these things wrong. And of course the cop overhears him. And so then the cop is just trailing them, waiting for them to do something wrong. He pulls the Huey, they get pulled over. Of course they're in trouble. And so they end up missing the New Year. And Niles is sitting alone in an empty diner.
Yeah. And then they all get together and they
realize they're in mountain time.
Right, because they can cross the time zone and they gain back an hour.
Right. Basically, they realize that they're in mountain time, but they're close enough to the border where Pacific time is that they could drive there, and they had 40 minutes or whatever to make it, and they basically will just make it. It's 50 miles from here. We have 40 minutes. Let's go or whatever. And so they pile back into the RV. The next shot we see them in their tuxes. They've got their, nice gear on, even though they didn't make it to the fancy party. And then the RV is running out of gas and they chug right across the finish line. And then they They run across the border to the other side of the
Frasier
sign that
gets a
says
great-
entering Pacific time zone.
Yeah, when he realizes where they are and how close they are, he goes, "Follow me!" And they all run. I just love that, like, you know, sort of lack of pretense when he drops that whole thing and he's just like, "Follow me, everybody!"
Let's do this thing.
Yeah, and so they run, and this is the part that kind of foreshadows How I Met Your Mother. We get this thing of like, well, they're all dressed up, but literally nowhere to go, right? Their thing is broken down, and so they have their fancy toast. And it's just, you know, it's your classic home is where the heart is, right? Like they didn't make it to where they were going, but they're together, you know, which was not taken for granted because one of them was accidentally stolen in an RV. And so, yeah, again.
And then a coyote howls and they all take off and go back inside the RV.
Yeah. But like I said, I like this. I like the road trip element of it, the farcical, you know, switching places, things, ending up in the wrong car, and just the way the sitcom beats and the way that it plays out of like, oh, you know, we didn't make it where we're going, but we have this little thing. Like all of it works for me. I think this was a good one. All right, let's finish it up with How I Met Your Mother.
Season 1, episode 11, The Limo.
Yeah, so like I said at the beginning, this is the one that I really enjoyed in terms of just nostalgia for my days as a young man, not unlike a young Ted Mosby in the city where, just going from place to place, this exact thing, you know, going from a party in somebody's house to a party at a bar to a party at somebody else's house. And I didn't have this system that we'll explain with Ted, but there's definitely a handful of years where I did something like this, and it was fun. Yep. You know, so Ted's thing is he's rented a limo. He's going to take them to 4 or 5 different parties, all before midnight, and then they'll choose which one is the best to end up at. Now, I think I'm gonna praise this episode for saying this is a nice balance to me of being like very much a part of this ongoing will they won't they thing with Ted and Robin, and you know, we can briefly explain what the context is with that, but it's still very much a fun self-contained sitcom episode, even though it plays into that.
That's why How I Met Your Mother was so good, right? Like the whole point of the show was him telling the story of how he met the kid's mother, who is not Robin. And so, but Robin comes into the picture right from the beginning. And so it's this long drawn out story that eventually, spoilers, makes the kids realize that, like, you know, you've always loved Robin. Like, why don't you go, now that mom's dead, why don't you go date Robin?
Yeah. Bizarre in my opinion, the way it all ends up. But anyway, the context for this is that Ted and Robin are not together. Robin is with her coworker, Derek. And
it's not a coworker this time.
Oh, all right. I'm confusing it with the guy later in the series.
This is like a doctor or something, some sort of swanky job that he has to work on New Year's Eve.
We just know that he's sort of floating around in the background. She's gotten away to hang out with them, but she's with him, you know, dating
She's
him.
supposed to, when the episode starts, she's there for the limo pickup and to celebrate and toast the beginning of the night with them. But then she gets out and is like, okay, we're going, you know, I'm going to wait here for Derek. Derek's going to come pick me up any minute. So she isn't hanging with them for the night. It's just going to be the core 4.
Yes. Barney is compensating by providing his All Rise mixtape where he says there's going to be no peaks and valleys, just all peaks, which I
100% agree with.
Idea. In terms of having like all upbeat music,
your party mix.
I don't think it's a good idea to have just the same song again and again.
That's the only one they were going to pay for the rights for.
Yeah, and so
would you like
Bon
to know?
Jovi's,
it's You Give Love a Bad Name. Yeah. Would you like to know the rest of the songs that are listed on that CD that they flash multiple times? If you freeze,
ahead.
You ready? All right. Number 1, Get Psyched. I Want to Rock. Twisted Sister. Number 2,
You Give Love a Bad Name, Bon Jovi. That's one we hear over and over again.
Which should be the first one.
You would think. But number 3 is Lick It Up by Kiss. Number 4 is Take Me Down to the Paradise City.
Yeah, good.
Guns N' Roses. Number 5, Dancing with Myself, Billy Idol.
Okay.
Number 6, Rock You Like a Hurricane, Scorpions. Number 7, Panama, Van Halen. Number 8, Talk Dirty to Me by Poison. Number 9, Thunderstruck, AC/DC. Number 10, Dr. Feelgood by Motley Crue. And number 11, Round and Round by Rat. All hair, all the time.
All right, I guess he wrote in small marker on that. But yeah, that's his thing. We get to hear the same opening of that again and again. And yeah, we're going to go to these parties. On the one hand, it does bum me out a little when I realize we're not going to get to see the parties, that this is the whole sort of device. On the other hand, I think it's kind of a fun device. They have Nanjeet, their cab driver friend, Ranjit.
Yes.
Sorry, their cab driver friend, Ranjit, is back as their limo driver. And so, yeah, that's going to be the sort of hook of this episode, is it's essentially all inside the limo. And it's like the Reservoir Dogs of New Year's Eve. We're only seeing the behind the scenes and not the parties themselves.
That's right. So they have 5 parties on the list. Like I said, they're going to hit them all once before midnight, and then they're going to pick the best one and go back. They get to party at the end of party number 1. They pick up
Mary Beth,
who is Ted's colleague, who kind of wants to date him.
Right. So he's I guess kind of pursuing her. One thing I notice is that she seems much more dressed up than him. She's wearing something like kind of sparkly, and he's wearing like jeans.
Yes.
It just kind of made me
think of the early 2000s when that's how dudes always dressed, and like on New Year's Eve, women always dress in sparkly things.
Yeah, fair enough. I was just like, oh, that's odd. Like, I would think he would have dressed for whatever thing he was going to meet her at. So they looked like they were on the same page.
Well, so it was his office party.
Yeah.
So he was just going into his office, and then he picks her up. And then, by the way, who has an office party on New Year's Eve? That seems kind of weird.
That's a little strange.
Maybe it wasn't his office party. Maybe it was people from his office having
were
a party.
Getting together.
Yeah. So anyway, so he picks her up, and then Barney also meets a Russian woman there.
Natalia, his Eastern European squeeze.
Yes.
And, she's fun, a little bit of, just like ethnic
Lily's
humor,
feet are already hurting because the like cuteness to pain ratio of her shoes was killing her.
I related to this beat. I am on team Ted, I guess, in terms of like granted, we don't really find out the details of where these different parties are in the city, but when you're going from point A to point B and more in the city, you don't go backwards. You don't go back to your apartment. If you're dealing with, I guess this is a limo, so you're dealing with traffic and stuff, unless it's really local. You got to suck it up and just keep moving forward.
Right. No, I 100% agree. I have been the person who wore the heels that gave me the blisters that basically I couldn't walk. And the deal of it is that if you make the choice that you're going to wear those and you're not going to bring backup shoes, and it's cold out, so it's not like you can just take your shoes off because it's wintertime. Yeah. You are screwed. You're going to have to put up with the pain. You're going to bleed into your shoes, and you're just going to like deal with it for the next week to come while your feet are healing. Yeah. Like, I've been that person. I've done that thing. I totally get it. But Lily is a New Yorker through and through. She's like, it'll only take me 20 minutes. I'm just going to run back to the house myself.
Well, they're not going to go for her, but then they go to pick up Robin because she's been stood up.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Lily pieces out on her own. She says, I can take the subway. It'll only take me 20 minutes. I'll meet you guys at party number 3. And she does. But so they're at party. That was after party number 2. So they're all going to head over to party number 3. But then they realize, or no, I guess they are heading to party 2. Is that what it is?
They come out of party number 2. They don't like it. They realize they left Natalia and they don't care.
Yes.
That's when they find out.
That's when Lily pieces out, right?
Yes. And that's when they find out that Robin's been stood up and they're going to head back to get her.
Yes, exactly. And so, but Lily's already gone, right? By the time they go to get Robin, is that what happens?
I don't remember Lily being apart from them for that long.
Yeah, she pieces out, and then they go to get Robin, and then they go to Papaya Dog.
Yeah, Gray's Papaya.
Right, to go, they're going to go get Gray's Papaya because, Robin's been stood up and she's sad. And then that's when Marshall is like, I gotta go find Lily, you guys. Like, we were supposed to be at party number 3 hours ago. I need to go to party number 3 now. She was supposed to meet us there. I'm going there. And so he's like, I'll meet you guys at party number 3. And so he pieces out to go to party number 3. And then they spot Moby on the street. Now, again, for all of you young folks out there, Moby was an alt rock, like sort of techno DJ act that was very popular.
Like, he's still making music.
Yes, but was very popular for a while there in the late 90s, early 2000s.
I have been confused with Moby and have been called Moby by various
That is
people.
funny. When you shave your head tight, I can totally see that.
Yes, when I was younger.
But you're also taller than Moby, so there's that. But this guy that's playing Moby, and we will later discover he is not Moby in the course of the show, is also the same guy who played Moby, not Moby, and is mistaken for Moby in Community, another one of my favorite shows. And once he is mistaken for Moby, but then realized that he's not Moby in Community, he then becomes the fake Dean.
I remember him as the Bizarro Dean.
Yes,
and
he's the
I
fake
was thinking
Dean
maybe it was Moby.
that Chung installs, right? Professor Chang, not Chung. Professor Chang installs.
Yeah, so we have this whole thing where they invite this guy in. It's funny. He says, "Oh, why don't you come up to my party with my friends?" And then he, Marshall or somebody says something. I guess Barney says "Oh, I never leave home without my CD." And Moby's like, "Oh yeah, that's how I feel about my gun."
Right.
How I feel about Bessie.
That's how I feel about Janice.
Yeah.
And he pulls out Janice, and it's this huge gun. And they're like, "Whoa, you're not Moby." And so by this time, Lily finally gets a hold of them. Jason Segel, nowhere to be found. Marshall's off looking for Lily.
They straighten out. Lily thought she was at party 3, but she was at 2.
Well, she's like, guys, I'm at party 3. This is amazing. Come in, get here. And they're like, we're, and she's like, oh, and Moby's here. And they have now realized that that's not Moby. And he's only there with a gun because there's a guy there that owes him money. And she goes, Moby has a gun. And they're like, run, Lily, get out of there. So then she's back in the limo and they can't find Marshall. And it turns out that not Moby's party wasn't party number 3. It was actually party number 4. They were at party number 4, not party number 3. So they were like, oh, we've got to go back to party number 3 because that's where Marshall is. And then they're like, no, forget it. We're just going to skip it. We're going to go straight to party number 5 because it's almost midnight. Everybody meet up at party number 5. And then they get stuck in traffic.
Yes, stuck in traffic. At this point, we're getting, we're sort of down in the story. Mary Beth has left. She realizes the vibe between Ted and Robin. And so again, playing into this overarching story, she tells Ted, I can see that you're in love with her and I can see that she loves you. And this, I'm sure that's not the only time we're going to get that sentiment, but you can see her saying this is a sort of plot point for this thing.
Sure.
And so she splits, and again, they've lost Barney. They've lost
Marshall.
Marshall. He's God knows where, and so they end up getting out of the limo, right? And just kind of
so they're all kind of depressed, like you said. She goes up for some. Mary Beth goes up the sunroof for some air. Ted joins her. She has this conversation with him. She leaves, hugs everybody goodbye, pieces out. Her friend's party isn't too far from here. She's just going to walk over there. Okay, so off she goes. Lily, they realize they're not going to make it to a party. They're not going to find Marshall. Barney is like his not Moby has stolen his mix.
Yes.
And so Barney doesn't have his All Rise mix. So he is spiraling into depression.
Such a time capsule of 2008 or whenever this was, that you need to specifically have your burnt CD that you made for yourself.
So true.
You can't just stream it. CD. You can't just listen to the radio or have
they have no music. They have cell phones, but
Yeah.
no music because cell phones are still the flip phones where you had to press a button 3 times just to get a C.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he's spiraling. And so Lily's like, I'm going to call Marshall. And they're like, you can't call Marshall. His phone's in the car. Like, he didn't take his phone. What are you talking about? And she goes up out of the sunroof and she's like, Marshall!
Yeah. And then
Marshall!
This is where we start to get our mega happy ending.
That's
like
right.
in Wayne's World. Everything sort of comes together. We got Marshall emerging from the smoke, right? From the
Yes.
sort of fog on the street,
Yes.
having found them. They get the CD somehow.
Yes, so Marshall had gone to party number 3, realized that they were wrong, went to party number 4, saw Moby, heard the mix playing, and didn't see Moby as like the scary Moby. He only saw, the not Moby being a kind of a weirdo, not a guy with a gun. He swipes the mix from that party because he hears it playing. He steals the CD and then goes to party number 5 and he's like, party number 5 is amazing. It's the best party ever. We have to get there. Guys,
Yeah.
we have to get
They
there.
even have
And they can't get there.
The cab driver is like, oh, Natalia, she was here asleep in the front seat the whole time.
I didn't want to wake
Yeah.
her. She looks so peaceful.
Yeah, I
so
didn't tell
Barney's
you.
got his girl.
Yeah.
And there's a flat tire, right? So Ranjit's trying to fix the flat tire. And so everything's good. And then Ranjit is like, tire is fixed. Let's go. And that's when they get stuck in traffic.
Yes. And so we get the sort of, we get that, and then we get the other obstacle of, Derek ends up coming out of the picture.
Right.
Like
They're basically counting down to midnight. And Ted and Robin have made a deal that if they don't have anybody else to kiss, they're going to kiss each other.
Yeah.
And so, I'll save a New Year's kiss for you, even if it's a little after
Right.
New Year's
So
kind
I
of thing.
guess, yeah, before we deal with that sort of romantic aspect of it, we already, just by them being in the limo and getting stuck in traffic, we get that same thing from Frasier of like,
Yes.
okay, we're not going to make it to the party. It's just going to be us all dressed up in this limo, and that's going to be our New Year's. And it's okay because we're all together with our friends.
That's right. Ted has the realization, same as Frasier has the realization. He pops the champagne. He's like, this is great. We're all together. It doesn't matter. We don't need a party. This is what really matters. And then knock, knock, knock. Derek's here. And so Ted is like, okay, well, I was the one keeping everybody together and happy, but now my girl has another guy for New Year's and I'm left out of
he
the
goes
cold.
outside like a puppy dog and sort of, he's walking dejected
Yes.
on the street.
Right.
And yeah, this is, like a little rom-com moment where
Right,
it's like,
so-
oh, poor Ted.
Poor Ted. Like, this whole show is always poor Tedding, even though he's kind of a dick. And so,
Yeah,
and
or
so,
at least a weirdo.
yeah, so Robin gets out of the limo, leaves her boyfriend behind, and is like, did you forget our deal? I said we were going to have a New Year's kiss. And like, her boyfriend wouldn't be annoyed at all that she got
Yeah.
out of a limo on New Year's Eve, walked down the street to go kiss her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, I mean, look, he stood up her earlier in the night, and that's basically what she says. She's like, he kept me waiting, I'll keep him waiting.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're not like a super serious thing.
No, they're a new couple.
But yeah, just like, what's her face and what's his face in Mad About You, they're sort of, no, the side characters, they're sort of signaling.
Fran and Mark and
Yeah.
Fran and Ira.
They're sort of signaling like, okay, maybe it's time for the two of us to start thinking about each other again. Maybe
Yeah.
these new people we have, well, that's not the way to go.
Right.
And so, again, same vibe as Frasier. We didn't make it to the party, but that's okay. We have the Bob Saget voiceover saying 2006 was a big one. And
Yeah, because that's what they do all the time on How I Met Your Mother. They always tried to like leave these little nuggets that you were about to meet the mom, but you were never going to meet the mom until like season 9.
yes, just like how Sam in Quantum Leap was always about to leap back into himself and go on
then
with his
never
life,
did.
but he never did. Okay, so looking back on all of these, New Year's Eve, plans gone wrong, lots of fun stuff. What do we think?
Well, so I was a little surprised to hear you say that the back half of this really picked up for you. you because I really enjoyed, and I felt like when we were talking about Mad About You, you also were realizing how much silliness and fun was going on in that episode. There was a lot to talk about in that episode because there were so many things happening, and it was a really good show. And so that one to me was the favorite. Only because I've seen the Limo episode of How I Met Your Mother many, many times. I've rewatched that series at least twice, probably 3 times all the way through. Like I was like quoting lines from that show as they were coming. You know what I mean? It's like Home Alone for me. Yeah. I basically know all the story beats. And so I enjoy watching that episode, but it is very familiar to me. I love the not Moby plot that they bring in. Yeah. I think that's so fun. And I also love that connection with Community that it has, because it's another favorite show of mine. But in terms of fun and like kind of new to me, and I had a good time watching it, Mad About You beat out Frasier 100% for me.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, for me, I definitely, the Laverne and Shirley was very fun in that sort of sitcom 1.0 way. Yes. You know, where it's very simple, straightforward story.
They show us how to do it, and now all the other ones break those rules.
We get to see the masters, these great, the ladies and Lenny and Squiggy and everything, it's just all of that original Gary Marshall brand sitcom stuff. It's not super challenging, but it's, it's just so like real. Him coming down the fire
second story window on a rope.
Like again, just like when Richie Cunningham has to climb into his bedroom window and you see, you can hear the audience tittering because he's literally like falling over himself trying to do the actual stunt. I love that stuff, but like I said, that episode really could have been any episode about this guy from her past is single,
exactly,
and she wants to get with him. Yeah, the Mad About You. Yeah, like I said, it definitely the time freezing for the ball to finish dropping was worthy of Rod Serling. Like that was an amazing concept. But
and Richard Kind, can somebody give me a real time here?
Yeah, but again, like it's always it's never going to be bad because all of those actors are so good. The general, like the writing is certainly like it's never stupid or anything, but for me, anytime we were watching, the guy whose name I don't remember, the saxophone player,
Ira.
Yeah, Ira and Fran and their relationship stuff and Richard Kind, like I just don't care that much about that. And then even the stuff with Jamie and Paul is like really, really good because they're so good. But I guess what I keep saying is like, yeah, I guess I want it to be a little more fun and silly or a little more meaningful, like if it had been made later and they would have sunk their teeth into it more.
Made
it
like more of a drama instead of a comedy.
But as it is, like very fun for sure. But for me, it didn't hold a candle to these last two because like I keep saying, I'm just a sucker for these sort of road trip or bopping around the city type things.
Yeah.
Changing up the format, that Frasier episode, poor Roz has to be the framing device at the beginning.
Oh, I know. Just to get her in the episode, right? Yeah. It was like this flashback of him at the coffee shop but telling that said, what he did for New Year.
Yeah, like no offense to her, but that I like that kind of stuff when you're like, yeah, let's get rid of a few of the characters and just have a fun change of scenery.
They didn't have what's her face either.
Daphne. She was there briefly when they were back at the house. But yeah, I really liked that. And the How I Met Your Mother, again, just that I think it's a fun sitcom-y conceit, even like a theater type conceit of having them always
put them like
inside the limo.
Car.
Yeah. And having it again get farcical in a different way of having the guy come in and brandishing the gun and all that. So yeah, I honestly have no real like preference. I think that those two did, they had the most fun with it.
Yeah.
For me. And it shows to me that's a sitcom doing better by just like sinking its teeth more into the trope.
Into going small. Like we never saw a party. Our only other set for Frasier was the diner that they used like 3 different angles of the same diner for all those the 2 different diners that they were in. I totally agree. agree in that I think it is a cool way to just like get your characters to experience an event, but keep them in, you know, like you said, like a bottle episode all in one little small space.
And also Ted's whole like limo and 5-pronged party thing is a fun send up of what we started talking about at the beginning. The whole thing of New Year's Eve is so much planning and so much, you know, you have to figure out a way to make it more special than an average night on the town.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of thing that people do.
Or you could go really big, like the way Mad About You did, which is get all the stock footage from actual Times Square, have an actual ball drop and freeze, have an actual swanky party where everyone's in tuxes and swank. Like, they spent the money on all of that stuff, right? Like, these other 2 episodes, they went small, so they didn't have to go over their production budget on, you know, creating all of these party sequences and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, because we should say New Year's Eve, it's not like a Christmas or a Halloween episode where every sitcom does it. Like, there were certainly plenty to choose from, but much fewer. This is not something that every sitcom feels the need to address. So yeah, it is just sort of like a typical episode for most of them.
Yeah,
you know?
well, and they tend to air, you know, in January, right? Like after the new year has happened.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So much for New Year's plans gone wrong. What are we talking about next week?
Next week, we're putting on a school play, Jay. We're going to watch The Patty Duke Show, Season 1, Episode 11, The Actress, Facts of Life, Season 3, Episode 12, Green-Eyed Monster, Head of the Class, Season 2, Episode 7, That'll Be the Day, and Blackish, Season 1, Episode 11, Law of Attraction.
Yep, school plays are next week, and until then, we will consider this segment of the sitcom study concluded. Thank you for listening to the Sitcom Study. Tell us what you think or share your own TV tropes and topic ideas by sending a self-addressed stamped email to sitcomstudypodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram. And if you like the show, consider leaving a rating or review on your podcast app. It helps us boost those precious Nielsen ratings. The Sitcom Study is recorded in front of a live studio dog.